Ames Public Library, 12 to try. Ames Library employees seated at a table with books.
Hi, my name is Alissa, and I'm the Resource Services Manager at Ames Public Library.
And I'm Tracy, Customer Account Services Manager here at the library.
And we are here to talk about the 12 to Try Reading Challenge the topic of the month, which is STEM.
Science, technology, engineering, and math. And we're going to use the broad version of science, which also includes nature, animals, things like that.
So stay tuned for our suggestions or come to the library and check out our displays and promotional items for the challenge. So,
ready.
I'm ready. You're ready? The first book that I picked for this was leaning in on the science side of things. It's called 8 Bears by Gloria Dickie. And she takes the readers on a global odyssey to explore the 8 remaining species of bears, from polar bears and grizzlies to the elusive spectacled sun bears. And it's part travelogue and it's part just kind of a conversation manifesto. And it examines how these apex predators have shaped human culture while facing existential threats from climate change, habitat loss, and illegal wildlife trade. And she does a really good job of balancing science and just vivid storytelling, portraying the bears just not as symbols of wilderness, but as complex creatures struggling to coexist, with encroaching humanity and the world and just all the issues that we bring. And it's a really sobering but really majestic look at what we lose when we lose the wild. And yeah, you forget that there's only 8 different species of bears. It seems like there's a lot more, but in the book, I did learn that bears can like cross whatever, and you end up with a polar bear and a grizzly bear, and you get a pizzle.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that was my trivia for this book. It's a really good book. I like it. What's your first selection?
So I picked an author because I like to break the rules. So I picked Cy Montgomery. I first got introduced to Cy Montgomery in juvenile nonfiction because I'm a huge juvenile nonfiction nerd. And I loved how she told stories and made the animals kind of that same thing of you really got to feel for the animals as beings, as individual beings even. And I learned not only facts about the animals that she wrote about, but also found myself emotionally engaging with the specific stories that she told. I was delighted when I found out she also wrote books for grown-ups. And so I read Soul of an Octopus first and just fell in love with octopuses and all of the information that she shared. I was entranced by the connection she described between the humans and the octopus, as well as fascinated with the tidbits that she shared about the lives of octopuses in the wild and in captivity. I read several other of her titles for adults and youth, and I now feel like I not only know more about these animals, but I also feel like I think more deeply about how I move through the world. I highly recommend them. I actually got one from my grandmother, and she said it was fantastic writing, and she's a tough critic. So that's my first book.
So you need a hand. My second book, because I also am a rule breaker, is a cookbook. And what is cooking if it's not, applied science and technology and math to some extent? So my cookbook that I picked is Potluck Desserts. And it's compiled by pastry chef Justin Burke. And in it, he celebrates the community power or the community building power that potlucks and a shared table experience bring. And it's a really cool collection of nostalgic, what he calls retro modern sweets. So you get some of the weird things from the old timey cookbooks that call for odd things, but also, they take modern ingredients and a modern take on that. So you'll get something like banana split poke cake and hummingbird blondies, traditional dishes for potlucks, but with a slightly more modern approach. And in it, he also weaves together, the personal anecdotes of his community and just potlucks that he's been, and its reflections on his own journey towards self-acceptance within the queer community, framing potlucks as a vital space for connection with, shared community. And the recipes are super accessible. They don't require a lot of fancy science, technology, but it really encourages home bakers of all levels to share creations with, their community and be authentic in themselves. And as you can see, I've already got I've already got some bookmarked that I want to try. So,
Fantastic.
what were your other
My
suggestions?
second book is all the rest of these. So I went to grab just a couple more that were different than these ones about animals, and I found myself just gravitating towards different types of books. So one of the things I love about STEM is that you can get everything from, so this is Things Explainer, and it is all illustrations, but that tell you how things work on the inside. I particularly love books that I can hop in and out of, so I don't have to read this front to back. I can hop into the middle and be like, I want to learn about this. And it's creative, it's interesting, it's funny, and it just lets you learn a little bit at a time. Kind of the long version of that is The Science of Everything, which does a very similar thing, only with real photos and more like color images that break down more complicated concepts and explain how they actually work, which when you think about a lot of the things, even trying to describe how a bicycle worked to my kid, I was thinking through like all of the moving pieces that I needed to understand. And so I love things like this where I really get a feel for a better way to understand that. I also went to some different fun books. These are all adult books, by the way. But this is a ventricular thing to learn about dinosaurs. And so all of the pictures inside move. And then you also learn about and how to, I believe, how to pronounce. We're going to go with Triceratops. I can pronounce that one. And so this is such a neat option for adults and something that is typically, you would find this, this format or this like fun introduction more in juvenile nonfiction. I also grabbed out Wild Words, which tells about different words in different languages that describe nature. And I found it fascinating. And then A Cloud a Day, which literally has photos of 365 different types of clouds, but then it tells you about like why the cloud looks like that and where was it taken. And so it's not only pretty, but it's interesting. My final, like the best thing about STEM is space, because space is awesome. So in STEM, learning about space, you can learn about the logistics and facts of space. I also particularly love this one because it has gorgeous pictures in it. You can learn about things like how to survive on Mars. You can learn all about the Apollo mission in 50 different objects that connect to the Apollo mission, why they were important and what they mean. You can learn about the people involved. So in Hidden Figures, which actually became a movie, that's why I grabbed 2 copies of it, you learn all about like the beginning of space going back to airplanes. And then additionally, there's a ton of math in this book because these are all human calculators. And so they were doing all of these really intense, complicated calculations on a little adding machine with their brains. It's an amazing book. Or if you're a little bit more lighthearted, you can learn about peeing and pooping in space. Also an adult book. So this is my 2 books to share.
You even wore your...
I did. I match.
That is perfect.
I am a space geek all the way through.
Well, thank you for joining us for this month's 12 to Try challenge book suggestions, and stop in the library for more.